Sports fans, come on down to Tom Reed's Hockey City Pub for one of the best dining experiences around. Great food, an awesome staff, and amazing atmosphere is waiting for you just minutes from Xcel Energy Center on West 7th in St. Paul. Whether you're watching a game, attending a concert, or just out for a good time, Tom's is the place to be. Enjoy twofers during all live Minnesota Wild games, Viking games, and Packer games. Now serving breakfast on Sundays until 2 p.m. While dining, check out the collection of over 400 pieces of hockey memorabilia. Having a get-together? Let them cater your event. They have room for you in their newly remodeled back bar with extra parking in their brand-new parking lot. It's Tom Reed's Hockey City Pub. Give them a call, 651-292-9916. That's 651-292-9916 to schedule your next event. And check them out on the web at tomreeds.com. And if you see Tom, don't mention Ken Dryden.
Hello, once again, it is episode 2 of the Sieve and The Scribe podcast. I am Dan Myers from Wild.com, and joining me as always, Kevin Gorg from Bally Sports North. Kevin, hello, welcome, and it's good that we haven't been canceled already.
Yeah, we're back, and we're, again, as you mentioned, we're able to work, and right now that's something I'm not taking for granted. It's been a couple of weeks since all of us at Bally Sports North have covered a Wild game. We'll get back to it this weekend when Ovechkin and the Capitals come calling. And I'm excited for our special guest later in the show to talk some college hockey, to talk a little Hockey Day Minnesota, talk a little high school hockey, going back to his days at Hermantown. It's going to be a fun show.
That guest you are speaking of, Kevin, is Minnesota State junior forward Ryan Sandelin of the number 1 ranked men's Maverick hockey team down in Mankato. You can't see me peacocking right now, but I am peacocking. As we said before, or in that interview, life is better as a Maverick, and that is 100% the case. We'll get to that here shortly. But as you mentioned, Kevin, plenty of other hockey to discuss. We're coming into that time of the year now where we're coming off the Winter Classic, which we previewed in episode 1. We can talk a little bit about that. Some big news today from the Wild as we record this on Tuesday, January 4th, a couple of big call-ups. We also sort of previewed that last week, but we're coming into hopefully the schedule coming back into the mix. Minnesota plays in Boston Thursday night. You guys, of course, will not have that game. That's a nationally broadcast ESPN game, but Washington comes calling after that. Colorado, Anaheim on the horizon after that, and Hockey Day, Minnesota, which we will get into with Ryan. But Kevin, let's look back at the Winter Classic here real quick. Not a good game for Minnesota, clearly. A game they lost 6-4, a game that was 6-2 after 2 periods. Matt Zuccarello was fantastic after the game in talking about how that was maybe the coldest he's ever been in his life, walking back to the Twins clubhouse to warm up for period 2. What were your sort of reflections from afar as you watched that game?
Well, I think the event really lived up to the hype. And, you know, I think when you try to put an event on like this and you can't control the weather and you looked at the forecast, and we probably knew a week out that it was going to be extremely cold, and just the way that everybody embraced that event and that weather. And we knew Minnesota fans would come out, but I was taken back by how many St. Louis Blues fans had made the trip and how much blue there was in the stands, just short of 40,000 people. And for the most part, they stuck around all day, and it was spectacular. I was there during the afternoon as the band was going through, you know, Thomas Rhett and his gang, kind of their sound check, little mini concert. The sound system was amazing. And then to be on the field and to look at all the details that they had in place, Dan, you know, from the fake deer to the ice fishing to the lumberjacks. I mean, they really did a hell of a job with the setup of this event. And I was curious because the last time we had an outdoor game back 5-6 years ago over at TCF Bank Stadium, I was there as a fan. I was there all weekend. I worked the alumni game with the Blackhawks and the North Stars. I took in the Wild and the Hawks that day as a fan in the stands. I really wanted to see what we looked like on TV, and it was an absolute home run. As bad as the game was on the ice, from a Wild perspective, it really stunk. The event was amazing, and the people made it that way.
I agree 100%. And thinking back, I was at that game at what was then TCF Bank Stadium back in 2016, and it was a ton of fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, a much better game for Minnesota. I think the Wild won that game 6-1. Heck, even Ryan Carter had a multi-point day. I mean, it was point day on the University of Minnesota campus that day, and it looked cool, but it was nothing compared to the visual feast, is what I've been calling it, the feast for the eyes that event was at Target Field, a place that you've spent a lot of time there in the summer. I've spent a lot of time there in the summer. It is one of the best ballparks in Major League Baseball, and putting on a hockey game the way it did with all the things that were going on, you said it. It was just a tremendous visual and something that maybe didn't play out as well on TV, but when you were able to kind of put your eyes on the whole scope of the event itself, what a job by the National Hockey League, by the Minnesota Wild, and by the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, they really did. The three of them together came up with a great game plan. And now I think the extra time probably helped. But, you know, the bells and whistles, so to speak, the 8 sheets of ice without the boards where they had youth games going on, college hockey players, Olympians, that was really neat. From Lou Nanny doing the Let's Play Hockey to having Justin Morneau and Joe Mauer and some of those Twins greats, Tony Oliva. Outstanding job by the Twins, the Wild, and National Hockey League to really know what they're doing, hit it the right spots, the right chords to make it come to life as it should be. Hockey in Minnesota is an outdoor product. All of us grew up with the game, walking down to the rink, and it felt like you were doing just that this past week. And it felt like you were going down to the pond, going down to the rink, and it was a neighborhood gathering. And that is what I was curious about. Could they capture the essence of what hockey is really about in this area? And I thought they absolutely knocked it out of the park. Pun intended, yes, but honestly, even on TV, it came across brilliantly. And I think one of my favorite touches, Dan, was having the Wild come out, not behind the bench where they came out on and off the ice throughout the week as they prepared or even during the game, but to come out of that warming house like the kids do when they go to the rinks here locally and all around the state of Minnesota. That, to me, was the icing on the cake. I thought it was spectacular.
Now, on the ice, not so spectacular. Again, Minnesota drops the game 6-4. Let's not give St. Louis too much credit, but let's give St. Louis some credit. They were really good in the game. Minnesota played 20 strong minutes. What were your takeaways from the game itself? Now, as the Wild has lost 5 consecutive games, this on the heels of an 8-game winning streak and a 9-game point streak, Minnesota really needs to find a way here. And I know it's not going to be easy with Boston and Washington on the horizon, but they have to find a way to right this ship here, or they're going to see all that progress that they made with that winning streak go by the wayside.
Yeah, it's sometimes not who you're playing, but when you're playing them. And the Blues right now are rolling. They are playing awesome hockey. They're playing with confidence. And I'm gonna say something that's kind of quirky, but I even think the way they came to the rink that day in their beach attire with their coolers, Marco Scandella, our old buddy, with the open shirt, and honestly, it's 10 below, and I had stopped by during the afternoon, and I'm telling you, you spent 10 seconds outside, you were shivering. To me, that sent a message right off the hop. They won the day early, and they won the game late, and they are a team right now that is on top of their game mentally and physically, and it showed in those first 40 minutes. Back to what you said, you know, we're approaching a calendar month since the Wild won a hockey game. The last win that closed out that 8-game win streak was December the 9th in San Jose. Now, a lot of this isn't their own fault. They've barely had any games. They've only had 5 in a calendar almost month, and the schedule's been turned upside down between COVID and injuries and cancellations. It's been hard to see this team get any traction. They've worked hard at practice in the couple of days since the Winter Classic. There's an edge right now to all those guys around the rink. We saw Marcus Foligno, our guest on the Sieve and The Scribe last week, show some real frustration and emotion at practice yesterday. I love that. They're a little bit right now on edge, and they should be. I think the not so subtle moves of bringing Boldy and Rossi up for their NHL debuts, I think will inject some energy into this team. And don't sleep on the fact that they get Jonas Brodin back on the blue line as well.
This is the Sieve and The Scribe podcast, episode 2, presented by Minnesota Hockey Magazine. Let's talk about those 2 young guys here in one moment after a message from our sponsor.
The Functional Neurology Center is a Minnetonka-based clinic staffed by a caring and progressive team of chiropractic neurologists who are experienced in treating post-concussion syndrome, chronic pain, dizziness, whiplash, migraine, and performance enhancement. They are the concussion doctors that you can trust for your comprehensive brain health in Minnesota and who have helped many local professional hockey players that include Mark Parrish, Brock Nelson, Zach Parisi, and Tyler Nanny. The FNC combines innovative technological therapies with manual therapy to improve human function.
My name is Mark Parrish, and I played hockey for 15 years and professionally, and I had some concussions, some head issues. We heard about Dr. Schmo, and we're certainly glad I did, because the difference from not just session to session during the day, but from day to day has been drastic. And just with suffering from sleep depravity for years, the last 3-4 nights I've slept like a baby and slept again like I did before I had kids, for crying out loud.
You can find them online at thefnc.com.
We are back, and Kevin, you teased it just a minute ago. Big news from the Wild today. Marco Rossi, Matt Boldy, they are up. We talked about this last week, how they may be on the verge of getting an opportunity. That opportunity is going to come Thursday night in Boston, when both Matt Boldy and Marco Rossi are expected to make their NHL debuts. Your overarching thought on the Wild bringing in these two highly touted first-round picks?
I'm a huge fan of Bill Guerin and Dean Evison and this coaching staff. And I think there has been a lot of conversation leading up to the Winter Classic, and certainly more conversations after that tough loss, that this team needs to get back on track in a hurry. And I think when you're going through a tough time, when you're dealing with a lot of key players out of the lineup, and I'm talking your captain in Jared Spurgeon, your best center in Julia Eriksson-Ek, now Jordan Greenway, who is really playing some solid hockey. The guys need something, right? And I think this could be the injection of youthful energy and skill that could maybe push them over the top to give them an edge. And, you know, you're missing your starting goaltender right now, Cam Talbot. So you're going to need to score some goals to win some games. And all of us as Wild fans have been salivating at the idea that these guys can be not only a part of this team, but a big part of this team moving forward. And already, after one day of practice, they're both on good lines. They're both on separate power play units. So Dean Evison and Bill Guerin and everybody that's running this team right now, they see what every fan was hoping they'd see in the potential and the talent that these guys possess. Now, it's going to be asking a lot in an NHL debut against a really tough team in Boston to go out there and make an impact. But I think these kids right now are good enough to do just that. And I'm really excited to watch the game.
You mentioned the youthful energy, and Dean Evison said it today after practice, these guys on the ice for the first time. That was actually one of the things they were really looking for, was just a new energy and a new vibe inside the dressing room to kind of clean things up. The Wild scrimmaged pretty hard today. Nick Bukestad, unfortunately, was injured. No update on him after practice from Dean Evison. It looked a little concerning, but in terms of that new energy, that new spirit, it looked like the Wild got that today.
Yeah, and let's be honest, they've looked slow through a lot of this streak. And when they were winning and playing good hockey, they were playing fast hockey. They were playing up-tempo hockey. You don't have to play fire wagon hockey to be on top of your game, but these guys were a fast product. They were efficient leaving their zone. They were clean through the neutral. They attacked with speed. They've lost some of that edge. And part of that, not their fault, but part of it needs to be kind of, I think the reset button needs to be hit. And when you call up a guy like Connor Dewar, who looked fast at practice, when you have skill like Rossi and a player like Boldy, I think that's more than just window dressing here. This is a coaching staff that wants this team to play with more pace. And I think aside from the youthful part of it, the skill part of it comes to mind. Marco Rossi's a guy that can make plays. Connor Dewar can get up and down the ice and really push the pace at any level, whether he's on the first line or the fourth line. He's going to bring that to the game. And we know who Matt Boldy is. He's a big, strong, solid kid. If Greenway's out and he's in, I'm okay with that. This kid has a ton of tools. He can play with some pace, but he can play with that rigid style, that physical enforcing style that I think with Eck out, you're missing some of that right now. So I think they cover a lot of bases here. And more importantly, psychologically for this hockey team, they needed something to believe in right now. You've got a lot of important pieces out. You're playing two great teams this week in Boston and Washington, and I think this can really help from a psychological aspect for the guys to kind of have something to rally around.
Boldy and Rossi not expected to tiptoe their way into the lineup. They're going to see prominent roles. Marco Rossi centered Kevin Fiala and Marcus Foligno today at practice. Both those guys are expected to get some time on the power play, so they're going to get plenty of ice time in Boston. You mentioned Connor Dewar. He is also expected to play in Boston. So Minnesota going to get a bit of a different look here as it tries to right the ship. Now, you did mention the injury to Cam Talbot. That is going to mean extended run here for Kaapo Kähkönen, who started off the year a little bit, I don't know, you want to say struggled, but he didn't look in peak form. In more of his recent action, he's looked a lot better. And more specifically, going to last season when Cam Talbot was injured earlier in the year, Kaapo Kähkönen was outstanding over a 10-game run. For a guy like that who has shown in the past that he can, he plays at a higher level, it seems, when he's getting more action, this certainly could be a big opportunity for the youngster in Kähkönen now to carry a little bit of the load and potentially earn himself some more starts down the line if he can play well.
Yeah, any goalie will tell you the hardest thing to do is be a backup and play every 8-10 days and do so some days second of a back-to-back without a lot of practice. He's kind of worked his way through that. I thought he was shaky early, to your point, in his first couple of starts, and then I thought his last 3 or 4 starts, he looked much more on top of his game. And when he's clean, when he's not giving rebounds, when he's efficient with his feet, he's a different goaltender. And back to last year when he was given the net, when he was forced into being the guy, he played his best hockey. He went through an 8-game win streak. He looked awesome. His goals against was like 1.4 something. So this is a guy that I think can thrive in this type of scenario. The hard part is going to be he hasn't seen game action in a long time outside of that third period where he really didn't see much rubber against St. Louis as the Wild finally really kind of came with some push to try to rally in that hockey game for the Winter Classic. So, jumping back in there Thursday, likely playing the game on Saturday, he's going to have to find his form. And I think the guys are going to have to help him, specifically the guys back on that blue line. And my God, Dan, getting 25 back on the ice, it's such a needle mover for this hockey team to have Brodin and Dumba together as that top pair and probably playing a lot of the ice time against the best the Bruins have to offer can only help a guy like Kaapo Kähkönen Thursday night.
As we talk about the Winter Classic, we talk hockey. As we mentioned off the top of the show, we're getting into the middle stages of January here in the next week or so. Hockey Day Minnesota on the horizon. Our guest, Ryan Sandelin, will be taking part in that. I want to chat a little bit with you before we get to Ryan about the day itself, and we will do that as soon as we hear from our sponsors.
Hey, pal, you already know that CrankyApe.com is the coolest auction site on the web for everything that rolls, floats, or has an engine. But did you know we'll also sell your toys for you? Why deal with sketchy characters, tire kickers, and no-shows when you can have the ape do it? It's a heck of a lot easier, and if you're not built like me, a lot safer too. Just go to CrankyApe.com and click on the blue burst. I'll take it from there. CrankyApe.com. Why monkey around anywhere else?
The Sieve and The Scribe want to thank one of our founding sponsors, Tim Cortez Studio, for supplying the artwork for our podcast. Cortez is a famed artist and former Gopher goaltender whose work is prominently displayed on the exterior of Duluth's Heritage Sports Center in a series of 20-foot by 34-foot banners representing commitment, dedication, courage, honor, hard work, teamwork, integrity, and sportsmanship. Check out his art at www.timcortez.net. That's TIMCORTES.net, or follow Tim Cortez Studio on Facebook, where you can find commission work for the United States Hockey Hall of Fame and the UMD Bulldogs championship teams. Email timcortezstudios@gmail.com for more information.
It's the Sieve and the Scribe podcast, episode 2, presented by Minnesota Hockey Magazine. Kevin Gord from Bally Sports North and Dan Myers from Wild.com. And Kevin, we talked about it on the other side. Hockey Day Minnesota on the horizon. For you, as we start to get to this part of January, of the hockey calendar, just how excited are you getting for this now, having been a part of this, first with Fox Sports North, now with Bally Sports North, being a part of this for the last decade plus, getting back to more normalcy this year in terms of the day itself, having fans back, being on site. You've got to be just giddy for a couple of weeks from now in Mankato.
Yeah, it's a special day for all of us. It's the one day throughout the year where everybody at our company has their fingerprints on the event. We separate and go into different pods and pockets for the Timberwolves and for the Wild and for the Twins, but everybody on the production side, the on-air talent, top to bottom, we come together to put this day out there. And I know behind the scenes, from our producer, John Stroder, our director, Matt Gangle, they've been working on this thing for months. And there's a crew behind the scenes that kind of help put this thing together. We're on the air for 15 hours straight. We're doing, multiple outdoor games. We're doing a Minnesota Wild game that night. We're doing all the stories and features behind the scenes. It is such a fun day, and there's so much that goes into it that, yeah, you look forward to it. And we didn't get to do it last year. Like a lot of walks of life, the pandemic turned everything upside down, and we did not have a real hockey day in Minnesota. We had a kind of a celebration out in Roseville, but we get back to what we do best, and that's being on location. And that is all the people that put their fingerprints on this coming together to help this thing be the special event that it continues to be year after year. It seems to get bigger and better. And we're there to showcase, number one, the city of Mankato, and number two, the kids that are going to be involved in Hockey Day throughout the week. It's a week-long celebration. We get that one big day on Saturday. And I can tell you, we're all very excited to do it. We're counting the days down. We've been doing that now for a long time, and we were really looking forward to the challenge that it'll present. And hopefully the weather's perfect, and we have some great hockey out there.
I know we can get more into this in a couple of weeks, maybe the week of Hockey Day. But when I think of Hockey Day, Minnesota, and I think of Fox Sports North and Bally Sports North and all the great work you guys do, it's hard not to think of Tom Hanneman. How much will he be missed this year at the event?
Yeah, it's our first one without Hanny. And just watch that celebration over at Target Center. And Marnie Gellner did such an amazing job paying tribute to him on the court. And, as I mentioned, it's the one day we all kind of come together as a group, and the on-air talent shifts from being sports specific to being our network specific. And Tom was always the face. He was always the guy, the anchor behind the scenes that made everybody laugh, that made everybody smile, that, made everybody feel like they mattered. Tom was special that way, where it didn't matter if you were Anthony LaPanta or the guy that was putting the duct tape on some of the wires to protect it from the cold weather. He made you feel like you were doing something special to make this day happen. And you can't replace a guy like Tom Hanneman. He'll never be replaced. We will be thinking about him. I know from above he'll be watching. As corny as it sounds, that's the guy he was. He loved it as much as anybody. He loved being at that desk because he cut his teeth back in the day covering the state tournament on Channel 4, back when the state tournament in the mid-'80s was at its peak, all-time in interest level. He was there as one of the guys that brought that to the fans here locally. He covered the North Stars. He covered the Gophers. And this is a day we kind of celebrate, our hockey history, our heritage, so to speak. And so, yeah, to not have Tom there, I really appreciate you bringing it up, Danny, because, we've all got these TH pens that we'll be wearing. We'll all be thinking about them, and it just won't be the same. And that's okay. Life has to move on. But I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that a lot of us will be toasting him at some point in Mankato that weekend, and then we'll all be thinking about him as we get wired up to start that broadcast, because he was so, so good at what he did, and he made our shows much better.
Now, the best way to have a tribute to a guy like Tom Hanneman is to put on one heck of a show. And I know you guys will do that in Mankato. I wanted to ask you this too, on more of a happier note. I know the folks down in Mankato have been planning on this for years now. I mean, the pandemic delayed this thing a whole extra year, but having been on, my side of things with the Wild and talking to people that have had an interest in bringing this event to Mankato long before it was even announced a few years ago was it Minneapolis, right? Was when I think Mankato was announced as the host. It seems like so long ago. What do you think this can do for a community like Mankato? I mean, when you think of Mankato on a statewide scale, certainly it's not Grand Rapids or Duluth or International Falls or Warroad, these communities that are synonymous with hockey. But you look over the last decade and the success the college program, the men's college program has had in Mankato, what this could really do to spur interest at more of the younger levels.
Yeah, I think it's a great chance to really showcase Southern Minnesota and hockey at its highest level. And, the high school programs are having success. You mentioned the college, and, the Mavericks are big time right now, number one in the country. I think having a chance to showcase not only the Mavericks, but the way this is a great hockey community, I think will resonate with people. I think there'll be people watching up north in places like Warroad, in places like Duluth, Hermantown, Roseau. They're going to be watching and saying, you know what, these guys get it. These guys actually really get it down south. And I think a lot of times hockey down south gets overlooked. And I got a good friend, as you know, in Mike Luckcraft, who's the head coach of the Northfield Raiders, and they're one of the better teams in single A hockey. I think, hockey in the 507 is climbing right now. And I think you're seeing these teams want to make a name for themselves. And so I think this will be a great day for people to take notes, sit back and say, you know what, this is pretty special. This is a community that really does support hockey, front to back, boys, girls, men, women. There's an opportunity down there for people to play and win championships. And I think this weekend will give a chance for people to really take note of what a great place it is in Mankato to have a Hockey Day, Minnesota. And I think obviously having the Mavericks men's team with Mike Hastings, #1 team in the country, as part of the focal point of the outdoor games, center stage, late afternoon, full house, Blakesley Stadium. I mean, you dream about situations like this. It's going to be really cool.
Looking forward to that day, and the whole week itself. Festivities start January 19th, which is a Wednesday. East-West boys and girls are going to play Wednesday and Thursday night outdoors. That's going to be a really cool way to kick off really the hockey. As you know, it's not Hockey Day anymore as much as it's kind of Hockey Week. It starts early and earlier every year. Looking forward to the men's alumni game on Friday night. That's going to be really fun to see the Ryan Carters and the David Backuses and the Tim Jackmans of the world. That's always – every one of these communities that we go to for this event is always one of the more fun ones, is to see all the old guys come back. Of course, today, Saturday that we talked about, I'm so looking forward to the Mavericks Tommy's game. It's going to be cool, and obviously they're my club. But there's some pretty good high school games that day too, when you look at Prior Lake and East Grand Forks on the boys' side. And maybe the game of the day in terms of competitiveness, that girls' game, Andover versus Edina, is going to be a barn burner.
Doesn't get any better than that in girls hockey. Anybody that's watched the state tournament the last couple of years has seen these two trade punches and trade championships. So I'm with you. As far as competitive games go, that one might be the game to see. Mankato East versus Mankato West during the week on both boys and girls side is going to be special. And then I'm curious, too, to see a Class A power in East Grand Forks take on a real up-and-comer in Prior Lake on the AA side. I looked at their schedule, and they're a 500 product right now, but, I mean, they've played everybody. They've played the Eden Prairies, the Edinas, up and down. I mean, they have played a who's who of high school hockey. And so I think, fans are going to be treated to a great venue, some really good hockey. And, it's a celebration. I mean, that's the one thing that comes to mind. It's a party. If you can be a part of it, whether you tune into our broadcast all day or you can make the trek down to Mankato, I've never heard anyone say leaving Hockey Day or when the broadcast is over that they regretted any of their time around it. It is something special. And all of us who grew up here understand how special the game is. This is the day where we celebrate that, and I think the community is going to kill it. I really do. I've been around this thing now for 16 years, and I've yet to see an organized committee that was so far ahead of the game. Now they've had an extra year. That's all well and good, but these guys have really embraced it. The community has bought into this thing, and I just think right now all we really knew is just get everybody down there healthy and let them party and have a great time. And Mankato will be, I think, shown through as one of the all-time great sites for Hockey Day, Minnesota, no doubt.
We'd be remiss if we didn't mention the schedule for Sunday, the 23rd as well. Minnesota State women take the stage that day, both on the alumni side. I'm actually really excited for that game because, as you know, Kevin, I got my start covering hockey at Minnesota State University, covering Sherry Vogt, who's an All-American goaltender. When I was a freshman, she was a senior. She's Sherry Dickerman now. She's an assistant coach on the MSU women's team. They will also play the Tommies on Sunday afternoon. There's going to be a little bit of Olympic cred there. Two coaches that have some Olympic cred. Joel Johnson on the St. Thomas side, running that program there. I'm not sure. I don't believe he's with the program this year, but he will be going forward. And, of course, John Ba Harrington from the 1980 Olympic team is the Minnesota State women's coach. So two programs with, again, some Olympic connections as we get into the Olympics, which will be something we get into far, far from now. But as we transition, we have a nice transition into our conversation with Minnesota State men's hockey junior forward Ryan Sandelin, and we'll get to that conversation on the other side of this break.
Whether you're an enthusiast or simply pond hockey curious, the Stillwater Fire and Ice Adult Pond Hockey Tournament is for you. From January 28th to the 30th on Stillwater's Lily Lake, your team is guaranteed to play a minimum of 4 games with all skill levels welcome and with parity in mind. Proceeds from the entire weekend of festivities will benefit the Herb Brooks Foundation, which provides free learn to skate and learn to play hockey clinics for kids throughout the local metro area. The Herb Brooks Foundation, the Stillwater Chamber of Commerce, and all the sponsors involved with this event invite you to come to Stillwater for a wonderful winter weekend of fun. For more information, you can register your team. Go to ahahockey.com right now before it's too late.
Welcome back to the Sieve and The Scribe podcast. It is episode 2. We got Kevin Gorg from Valley Sports North. I am Dan Myers from Wild.com. And joining us today, Minnesota State men's hockey junior forward, Ryan Sandelin. Ryan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
We should say happy belated birthday to you as well. We are recording this here on Tuesday, January 4th, and you turned 23 years old, correct? Yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday. Too old, according to my dad. So,
What do you do to celebrate mid-season, right? You're in the middle of this big season. You guys are a highly ranked team. It's an awkward Monday night birthday. How did you celebrate?
not much. Just enjoy being at the rink with the guys. Go out for dinner. That's about it. Just kind of hang out with the guys. That's about it. So nothing too much to do during the middle of the season, but that's all right. I don't mind it that way.
We got a nice early birthday present over the weekend, a 2-game sweep by the Mavericks of the University of Minnesota Duluth. The Bulldogs, they were ranked number 6th. They are not ranked 6th anymore. Minnesota State still ranked number 1, of course. Just what was that like? We'll get to the family ties and what all that means in a little bit, but just from a pure hockey standpoint, a big non-conference weekend, only so many of these sort of non-conference series to really kind of stake your claim when it comes to the pairwise and where you want to be at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, that was obviously another weekend that's circled just because it's non-conference, and Duluth is such a high quality opponent. They're always in the top 5, top 10 of pairwise. So I think for us to come out of the break and kind of have that as our first 2 games back and to kind of play the way we did. And I know Thursday wasn't our cleanest game, but it never is when you take 2 weeks off. So I think it said a lot about our group to get the win there in overtime and then go up to Duluth and play without 2 of our top end forwards and shut them out on the road. That says a lot about, the depth of this group that we have and, just the ability we have right now to play 4 lines, 7D, and obviously our unbelievable goaltender in net. So I think it was just a huge step for us to start the second half. And, it's definitely something for us to build off of.
Yeah, talk about your goaltender a little bit because, Dan and I have daily conversations about your hockey team and his affection for the Mavericks. And I'm an old goalie, and I know how good this kid is from afar, but you're there every single day. What separates him?
I tell you right now, it's tough to score in practice on him. So, just his habits, his commitment to detail, his ability to kind of just block out all the noise and go out and play and just enjoy being at the rink with the fellas. I think that sets him apart. I think he enjoys being around the rink and just loves the process of every single week and what it brings to the table. And, I think that shows every week. He's the best goalie in the country for a reason. The numbers back it up. So, we're pretty fortunate to be able to go against him in practice. It definitely makes us better. And, we're fortunate to have him every game between the pipes.
Just want to run through this here with you, Kevin. You're a stats guy. You ready? Going back to November 18th against your Tommies, a 9-0 win, a shutout the next 2 days later at St. Thomas, 5-0. November 27th against Lake Superior State, a 3-0 shutout win. Sweep over Michigan Tech. He allowed a total of 2 goals in those 2 games. Sweep over Bemidji State, 2 goals in those 2 games, and then a sweep of Minnesota Duluth, 1 goal allowed in those 2 games. You want to talk about a guy that is in the zone right now. I mean, we've seen him play over the last 3-4 years. We've seen him go through some zones. He seems to be really locked in right now.
And Ryan,
yeah, absolutely.
I see it with Cam Talbot in the Minnesota Wild when he's healthy. He's hurt right now. The players talk about when you hit the ice with that weapon, what it allows you to do as a team. You guys have a lot of great offensive skill. What type of freedom does that provide for you when you walk on the ice knowing that you've got the best goaltender, not only in the game that particular night, but in the country? That's got to give you some wings to fly with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it gives guys a little bit of leeway in terms of mistakes that you can make, defensively, I mean, that's obviously something you always want to clean up. You don't want to be giving up grade A's all the time, but it's hockey. Mistakes happen. There are going to be grade A's every single game, whether you're on offense or defense, and that's just the game. So, I think for us to know that we have him back there just to clean up any sort of mistakes we have and kind of just be there as a rock for us is huge. And I think it shows through our lineup, just the confidence guys have to go out and play at will. And, like I said, mistakes are going to happen, but, we're pretty fortunate to have him back there to backstop those mistakes.
Now, I do need to clarify something. Now, let's get to the good stuff here, because any sweep over Minnesota Duluth comes, of course, Ryan Sandelin is the son of UMD Bulldogs coach Scott Sandelin, a longtime coach there, had a ton of success, has not had success against his son. However, you're what, now 4-0 against dad, right?
Yeah, that's what it is right now.
Just what was that like, over the Christmas break? You guys had 2 weeks off. I think it's the longest stretch off that you guys have had, certainly in your time there. And Mike Hastings said last week in his 10 years in Mankato, that stretch is the longest midseason time off that you've had. But going home for the holiday break, knowing that series was on the horizon, what was that like? And were there some tense moments maybe around the Christmas dinner table?
I wouldn't say tense moments. We tried to not talk about it, honestly. We just kind of enjoyed being home together because, obviously our schedules conflict pretty well with each other. So, just enjoying being home with our family and whatnot was great. Obviously you're going to talk about it. It's fun to have him on the other side of a 2-week break, but, they got to handle their business. We got to handle ours. And, at the end of the day, it was just great to be able to go home for 2 weeks and be able to spend some time with him because I don't get to do that very often. So I kind of take that time and just enjoy it for what it is.
And, I look back at my college time at St. Thomas, and I always had mom and dad in the stands watching me play just like they were in high school. Obviously, with your schedule, dad can't be there very often. And I know he's been an instrumental part in your success as a hockey player. What's it like, and how much do you talk to your dad? How much do you text with your dad during the season, knowing that, you guys are playing at the exact same time and you guys are both competing likely down the road for the big carrot that is the national championship?
Yeah, we try to talk once or twice a week. He's obviously busy with his stuff, and I got my stuff going on, especially when school's going. But we try to stay in constant contact, just checking in on things, how things are going and whatnot. Obviously, last week there wasn't a whole lot of communication going on, but that comes with the matchup and everything, and I think we both enjoy that. So, I try to just use him as a rock. He's got so much knowledge about the game, and even though he can't be there in the stands, he's able to go back and watch shifts or games, or if I have questions or anything like that, he's always been there for me to go back and use as a resource. And I think the one piece that kind of gets lost in is my mom. She's the one that's always going back and forth between my sister's games, my games, up from Duluth back to Mankato, all that stuff. So, I think she's kind of the one that drives our house. And, my dad's always going to be there, the hockey piece, but my mom's always the one that's there off the rink, and she's my biggest supporter. So I think she deserves a lot of credit as well.
Nice.
Now, in that vein of not talking, I need some clarification on this. So the Minnesota State men's hockey Instagram account put out this video after the game Thursday night in Mankato. Now, I know the CCHA teams after every game have a handshake line. The NCHC teams, I think, do it at the conclusion of the series. So I think there must have been maybe a little bit of a miscommunication in terms of whether there was going to be a handshake or not a handshake. The bottom line, you at the end of that game, it looked like you were waiting to maybe get a fist bump or a handshake from dad, and dad didn't really look like he wanted any part of it. And it was just kind of an awkward exchange there at the end. What happened there? It looked, you had a little smile on your face. I did see that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. We weren't sure, we're used to shaking hands, whether that's the right thing to do or not. I don't know. I'd prefer to do it at the end of the series, but every league's got their own rules and set of stuff and set of protocols they like to go through. So I think we were all expecting to kind of go through the handshake line, and then he had started talking to other guys. So I thought he was going to come over and say something to me too, but he kind of walked away. So I was like, all right, whatever, we'll see you on Saturday. And then he kind of barked at me, and it looked like it was an awkward exchange. I don't know why they posted on the Instagram, because that was not clean. It didn't look very good. So It's all right. We got a good moment after Saturday, and that was that. So
Now, did you get a call from Dad on your birthday? That's the most important thing.
yeah, I did. He forgot how old I was, but that's all right.
He's got a lot on his mind, especially after getting swept by your team. So you got to cut him some slack on that. And like me, he's getting old. I've known your dad for 2 decades, and one of my very favorite coaches to cover back in the day at Fox Sports North with the college hockey, being up at Duluth at the deck back in the day, and then obviously at Amsoil. Your dad is a real treat to cover. And his passion for the game and the success he's had. I want to go back to when you made the decision to be a Maverick, and I know you and I have had this conversation before. I know Dan's had this conversation, but for our listeners out there of the Sieve and the Scribe, what was the process like? Were you considering playing for Dad? Because that's a different dynamic. And then how did the conversation go when you ended up making your choice?
Yeah, it was definitely on the table for sure. He wasn't really a part of that recruiting process from their staff standpoint. He wanted the assistants to kind of take care of that. And if we had to come down and sit through a conversation to make the decision for me to go there or not, then he'd be a part of the big decision. But he wanted the assistants to kind of carry that recruiting process. But, I think part of it was just I was good with him being my dad, and he still coaches me. Like I said, in a way, he's still able to be there as a resource for me. So I think that's kind of an added bonus, I guess, in a way. But I think there were some definite things that the staff here at MSU did that set themselves apart from other schools and really made this place feel like home. And, when it came down to it, I wanted to go somewhere where I felt wanted and felt like they really wanted me to be a part of their family, and MSU did that. And, when it came down to it, that was the deciding factor for me. I wanted to be a part of a family and a winning culture. And, that's what we have here at MSU. And I couldn't be more happy with my decision. So
What is that dynamic like between the two families, the Hastings family and the Sandelin family? I know that your dad and Mike are tight from working on each other's staffs at the World Juniors. Your mom and Jean Ann Hastings, Mike's wife, are tight. I mean, how much does that, I guess, play a part in that dynamic and how you were able to kind of get comfortable in Mankato?
yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. I think, Mike and my dad have a very professional relationship, and they have a lot of respect for each other. And then obviously off the ice, my mom and Jean Ann, went through their own separate battles. So I think, that just kind of plays into a part of it. Me and Coach Hastings have a great relationship, and, we're able to put all that aside and have a good professional hockey relationship. And, I think that's kind of why I came here. I wanted to be treated as a hockey player. I didn't want to get any free handouts. I didn't want to be handed a scholarship or anything like that just because of my name or because of relationships. I wanted to come somewhere where, hockey was the deciding factor in the scholarship that I got. And, Mike and coach, the rest of the coaching staff here has been able to do that. And we all have a great relationship in that regard.
Now, it's a magical season so far. You guys are having just a dream run. You're healthy. You're scoring. You're winning when a couple guys are out of the lineup. You've got the goaltender. You've got the coach. It feels like everything's in place. And oh, by the way, we're just 2.5 weeks away from Hockey Day, Minnesota, which we didn't get to celebrate last year. And I know from talking to you guys this summer, and I know from talking to Coach Hastings just a few months ago, what a big deal this is going to be to see that town, that rink, that location, and the celebration of not only the town, but also your hockey program and being the focal point of that day when you take on St. Thomas as part of the big broadcast that goes for 16 hours. I know you've got 2 other series before you get to Hockey Day, but how much have you guys talked about it, taking it outside? We just had the Winter Classic here in the Twin Cities. I'm certain that right now that's got to be at least a part of your thought process.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like you said, we got the 2 series before. So, we're obviously going to be focused on that. But, the guys, just every day that passes, just the excitement grows. I think, we haven't seen our jerseys yet, which is something we're really looking forward to. That's going to be a big piece of it. We want to know what we're wearing, what the boys are going to look like outside. But, just seeing the Winter Classic this weekend, we were playing, but, seeing just the support, even though it was below zero, like Minnesota loves their hockey, being from the state of hockey, I know that pretty well. And I've been a part of Hockey Day up at Hermantown too. So I know kind of what the day entails and what it's like. So, I think for guys that kind of know what it's like, try to describe it to guys that haven't been a part of something like this. And it's hard to put into words until you're a part of the experience itself. So I think we're all looking forward to just being able to share that as a team and have that as like kind of like a mid-season celebration of just the great community we have here and the great support we have in Mankato. So, it's something we've been looking forward to for a while. And, like I said, each day that passes, we're growing more and more excited for that.
It's the perfect segue. I wanted to ask you about that. Hockey Day in Hermantown. Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was in 2010. You mentioned you were there. At that point you're a kid. Just what do you remember kind of about Hockey Day and the festivities in Hermantown that day? And just take us through a little bit of what it was like growing up and playing hockey in that community, playing high school hockey specifically in that community that has had so much success over the years.
Yeah, we grew up. I'll always say the 4 outdoor rinks that were set in place by the community is a staple of the success of the kids that come through the program there. So, the whole Hockey Day experience for just going out to those rinks, we're out there every day, and then just to see all the stands and cameras and just so many people like out supporting the teams playing, the high school team, just being there for the community. It was like, as a kid, you were like, this is like the coolest thing ever. It's like the big show is kind of what we thought of it. So, I remember the ice being absolutely atrocious. I think it might've been raining almost. The paint was coming up everywhere. It was all over the guys' jerseys. Hermantown had a great team. I think Eden Prairie won like 3-2. They had Kyle Rao on that team, I believe. So, just the showcase of talent between Eden Prairie and Hermantown that day was unbelievable. So, as a kid, that's kind of what you grow up watching, and to have that event like literally right down the street from where you grow up it was pretty awesome to just be a part of and kind of showcase and take in, and kind of looking forward to being the focal point of just a Hockey Day down here in Mankato, because I think that's something I grew up seeing. And you never know if you'll ever get the opportunity to lace them up on Hockey Day. That's kind of something kids look forward to, just being able to play and be grateful to go out and lace them up and just play anywhere, whether it's at the big event or not, I think is something that is really special. So we're looking forward to that.
And hockey's different outside, especially for skill players like yourself. How much did you play growing up, and how much will you guys have as far as outdoor ice time goes leading up to Hockey Day this year as you guys prepare as a team?
Yeah, we're not too sure. I think, guys like myself, Wyatt Ahmet, we're both Hermantown guys. So, we used to skate every day, basically 7 days a week from 2:30 till you couldn't feel your legs anymore. You do homework in the warming shack, and, you get your homework done there, and you have a couple of slices of pizza, and you go home and you're basically sleeping by the time you get out of the car. So, I think for that piece of it, I have a lot of experience just skating outside and kind of what it's like. So, whether it's snowy or not, it's just fun to be able to kind of take hockey in its natural element like that. And for guys that just haven't, I think, we have guys from Florida, Colorado, guys that have never even skated outside before. So we're hoping we can get a little bit of ice time outside before. I know we play Thursday, Saturday, so we're hoping we can get out for a practice on Friday, but we haven't heard what the schedule is or anything. So hopefully we can get that nailed down. But if not, we'll just kind of take it as it is and see how it goes.
The Hockey Day Twitter account, I see it all the time. It looks like it's every couple of days they post an update from Blakesley Stadium, which will be the site of the game here in a couple of weeks. Being on campus, I mean, do you drive by it and just kind of take a peek into Blakesley Stadium, and just how much are you looking forward to as a student being able to play a game on campus? For those that don't know, Minnesota State plays its games downtown at the Civic Center, but to play a game on campus for certainly the first time in the Division I era, and maybe 40, 50 years since MSU hockey's played a game on campus, that's going to be pretty cool to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. We like to go to the football games during their season, and, just to see the rink set up there it's going to be awesome. I think, like I said, the excitement every day just builds. You see more and more of the rink, more and more of the setup, what it's going to look like. The excitement's just kind of bubbling over to this point. So, just to be able to, like I said, play at the big event, let alone play outside and be on campus, hopefully we can get a bunch of students out there to have support. We've had unbelievable support from our students in the community this year. So I don't think we're going to be lacking in that department at all. But, we're all just so excited. I think, once we kind of heard where the setup was going to be and what it was going to look like, guys were just ecstatic to be able to have the opportunity to lace them up. So I think it's paramount to just kind of be able to go out and play outside. So we're looking forward to it.
You mentioned the Winter Classic. I thought it was pretty cool that Rem Pitlick scored a goal, like you, a kid that played high school and college hockey in the state of hockey. You met, Nick Bukestad's been a part of Hockey Day. Alex Goligoski from Grand Rapids, they were a host. Have you had a chance as a hockey player with the success that you're having on a team that's doing so well to even think about or look past your time as a college hockey player and dream about being one of those guys that played high school, college, and then pro hockey at some point in the bigs? Or are you just focused on what you've got in front of you right now with the Mavericks?
I think, that's kind of the dream of every kid. You grow up watching college hockey players and you think that's the end all be all. And then, you kind of get there and then you're like, wow, you always watch NHL. So that's always on the back of your mind too. But I think if you have the tendency to kind of look past that, you kind of overshadow what's going on in the moment right now. And I think that's kind of what I'm focused on individually. And I know a lot of the guys on our team are just focused on taking it day by day, getting better. We have a really good setup with our lineup, our depth, like you said earlier. So I think guys are just trying to take advantage of what we have right now for us in the moment. And, there'll be opportunities for guys down the road and you can visit that when they come and the season's over. But I think, like you said, just we have a really good setup right now and we have a lot of pieces in place to make a deep run. So I think just focusing on getting better every day and focusing on the moment instead of getting too ahead of ourselves is key for us.
Wanted to ask you another Hermantown related question. Specifically this past weekend when you're playing the Bulldogs. On Thursday night, I was doing the game with Bruce Siski on Duluth radio, and I think there were 5 or 6 Hermantown guys on the ice between the two teams, yourself and Wyatt Ahmed, of course, the defenseman for Minnesota State, and then 3 or 4 other guys for Duluth. One, how cool is that for you to go against all those guys from the same town? A lot of guys you played with back in high school. But Mankato also has a nice little Hermantown pipeline going between yourself and Wyatt, and then Mr. Aaron Pionk, younger brother of Neil Pionk, who committed to Minnesota State last week. Are you the one that's maybe in his ear sharing that message of life is better as a Maverick? You see that? Way better as a Maverick.
Yeah, well, my dad can't get all the recruits from Hermantown, so we got to start a pipeline somewhere else, which I know the coaching staff was pretty excited that Aaron decided to come on board as a Maverick, and me and Wyatt were too. Because, there's so many good quality players coming out of Hermantown right now. So, the more guys we can try to get down here to MSU is better for us in the program. And it's just cool to see to be able to, like you said, lace up against those guys because, you don't know how many times that's going to happen. And you don't know how many times you're going to be able to play against those guys once you move on from high school. So I think just kind of relishing in the moment, kind of taking it for what it is and being able to just kind of soak it all in because, that's special being able to go out at the Division I level and play against and with guys that you played with in high school is something that, personally I don't take lightly. I think it's really fun to be able to do that. I wish all those guys all the best. They're like brothers to me. So I think just to be able to go out there and compete with those guys and compete against them is really special.
And you've got a coach that played high school hockey, I believe, in Crookston, college hockey at St. Cloud State. So he's another guy that understands the path that you've had, right? I mean, he knows what it's like to be a Minnesota kid, to play high school hockey in this state. It's sacred ground with that state tournament looming as a kid. You think about it from the time you're 5 or 6 years old, playing college hockey locally in town as a Minnesota kid. Mike can relate to that. And I guess it's just watching your program develop over the years and seeing Coach Hastings and his path to success and how well he's done. It's got to be pretty easy to play for a guy like Coach Hastings.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a Minnesota born and raised guy. So, he understands the magnitude of how important it is to have a great program in Minnesota. And as a Minnesota kid, you want to be a part of something like that. That's what you grow up watching, especially for myself. I grew up going to every single Friday, Saturday night Bulldog game that I could. So, that's something that, you just want to be a part of, and you want to be a part of a winning culture, especially in Minnesota. And pretty fortunate to say I've called MSU home here for 3 years, and I'm looking forward to see what we can build on from the first half, and then obviously through this past first weekend.
In talking to Mike Hastings about you last week, he said in that realm, you growing up around that Bulldogs program, of course, UMD won its first national championship of 3 titles, what, about 10 years ago at this time. What did kind of growing up in that environment do for you as a young hockey player? And how much does that really help kind of fuel you as you try and bring that sort of similar success to Mankato?
Yeah, I think it's hard to describe kind of what that brings to me. I think, you don't really think about it too often, but once you kind of take a step back and kind of realize how impactful that can be, being around a winning culture and a team that won 3 national championships, and a coach who's been through it all. He's been through the regional countless times. He's been to multiple Frozen Fours. I think you kind of see what kind of level of commitment to detail that is needed just to get to that stage, let alone win the whole thing. And, I think trying to take as much from that as I can, from being on the outskirts and just being in the house around my dad and being around the rink, around high level guys, guys that were on that first 2011 team, like Jack Connolly. I mean, I still skate with him in the summer and see what kind of level of commitment he has to the game and how much he enjoys being around the rink. I think just trying to be a sponge around those guys and learn as much as you can, because, there's not a full-blown success or recipe to success for guys like that. But, I think if you can take anything you can from guys that have been successful at higher levels and try to implement that into your daily routine and just how you approach the game, I think that's going to go a long way for you. And I've tried to do that to this point, and I try to take as many lessons as I've learned from those guys down here at MSU, and hopefully whatever I can bring to the locker room for the guys is something that can help us down the road, especially come February, March, and April.
I know you're a hockey fan. I know you watch a ton of hockey. You've done it all your life. We're all creatures of habit in that regard. Is there a player out there, Ryan, in the National Hockey League that if it's an off night for you guys, I'll use tonight as an example. Let's just say it's a Tuesday night. You guys are done with practice and you're tuning in to watch NHL hockey. Is there somebody that A, you either have to see, love to watch, or B, try to model your game after that plays at that next level?
I've always grown up a huge Sidney Crosby fan. I think just his ability to bring a high level of skill and grit to the game has been something that's always been attractive to me as a hockey player to watch. And then growing into that, I've always been a huge Penguins fan, just watching their games. They've had so much success as an organization. So, obviously watching that and seeing Crosby play at such a high level for a long time has been something I love to do. I'll always tune in when the Penguins are playing. But I think from watching them over time, Patrick Hornqvist was a really similar player type to me. And I really enjoyed watching him, especially playing alongside Crosby. I was almost a kill 2 birds with 1 stone, if you will, with watching both those guys play together. And I think we kind of play a very similar style of game. So I think anytime I can try to watch Hornqvist play, now he's with Florida, obviously. So, I try to watch them as much as I can, because I really enjoy watching him play with the passion that he plays with, and, just the high level of detail and physicality, but also with the blend of skill as well. So I think, watching those 2 guys play together for Pittsburgh was really influential for me.
You're talking to the world's biggest Sidney Crosby fan on the other side of this podcast. So.
And Dan, you're the biggest Teddy Bluger fan. So you've got Penguins covered front to back.
Let's go Penguins, right?
Love it.
Patrick Hornqvist. That's a great answer.
Yeah, I love watching him play.
Anything else for young Ryan, Kevin?
No, I just really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's a busy time for you and your teammates, and we're all so excited at Bally Sports North to be able to come down and spend some time in Mankato here in a couple of weeks. We've been looking forward to this for 2 years. I know the great support you have in the community. I've met the volunteers and the people in charge, the organizing committee. It's unbelievable. Every year this event gets bigger. I just, as an older guy that no longer gets to play the game, enjoy every game, but especially that weekend. Soak it all up, buddy, because it's going to be one of those standalone weekend standalone games that you'll take with you for the rest of your life. And I think you guys are going to have an awesome crowd and an awesome time. So thanks for doing this today.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm looking forward to Hockey Day Minnesota and you see what the rest of the season has in store for us. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, Ryan, I want to personally thank you for getting that NCAA tournament monkey off the backs of every single alumni. I spend clearly a lot of time in dressing rooms with guys that played college hockey, and I never, ever heard the end of it. So let's go one step further this year and bring the whole thing home. How does that sound?
Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be awesome.
All right. We'll see you in a couple weeks at Hockey Day. Thanks for joining the Sieve and the Scribe today, Ryan.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Just
a fantastic interview there, Kevin, with Ryan Sandelin from Minnesota State. How about that? Patrick Hornqvist. I watched Sidney Crosby. Yeah. You talk to these young kids now, and it's, I love Connor McDavid, and I want to pattern my game after, Kirill Kaprizov or whoever it may be. I pattern my game after Patrick Hornqvist. That's a guy who knows his game.
He does, and he follows hockey, watches it closely. He's a coach's kid. You can tell by talking to him. And Hornqvist, I think, a lot like him, can play with some grit, can go to the net, has good hands, can play on the power play, can shut people down. So I think it's a great player for him to emulate. And you said it, just a really enjoyable interview, getting to know him and kind of peeking behind the curtain with both the Mavericks and then the Sandelin family, his mom being the glue that keeps that whole thing together. Love the show. Love what we're doing here with the Sieve and the Scribe. This is episode 2. Love the artwork that I saw online, and you'll appreciate that. I mean, Tim Cortez, former goaltender, played at the University of Minnesota. I've been friends with this guy since the mid-'80s. His artwork is spectacular, and he does great stuff. If you're a North Stars fan like I am from way back in the day, I want to thank my buddy Bill Lethert with Mendota Valley Amusement. He's a horse owner out of Canterbury, knows how much I love the North Stars, knows I'm buddies with Cortez, sent me a couple of amazing North Star prints, one a tailgate and one of a barn. It's unbelievable. If you're a hockey fan, Tim Cortez is the artist for you. And Zach Halverson, we've got to thank him more often. He's the producer behind the scenes for a couple of hunyucks like us. He makes this whole thing go. Zach is so talented. Halvey from the Power Trip Morning Show, thank you so much for your hard work, young man.
Halvey maybe invest in some lights for that basement, but does a fantastic job with what he does. And I'm jealous. I want some of those prints too. Those sound fantastic. I'm repping the North Stars hoodie right here.
Right on brand.
Good stuff. Also want to point people to MinnesotaHockeyMag.com. The Winter Classic edition is out right now, the special edition. I'm just kind of leafing through it. Just a tremendous publication, some awesome pictures and articles. So check it out, MinnesotaHockeyMag.com. They are hosting this thing, Minnesota Hockey Magazine, the Sieve and the Scribe episode 2. So thanks to them for that. And also looking forward to the Hockey Day Minnesota Special Edition. That'll be out in a couple weeks. Again, all of it, you can find it, MinnesotaHockeyMag.com. For Kevin Gorg, I am Dan Myers. For Zach Halverson, our esteemed producer, thank you for joining us. Sieve and the Scribe episode 2. We'll talk to you next week with episode 3.
Dave's Sports Shop in Fridley, Minnesota, the top hockey shop in the North Metro since 1969. Specializing in custom fit hockey gear, top quality skate sharpening. We've got a full lineup: CCM, Bauer, Sherwood, True, Vaughn, and many more. We also offer used and new skates. We'll take those old skates in on trade for your new skates. Dave's Sports Shop, where the winners shop. Come find out why. Mention this ad to get your free skate sharpening.